When the streets of New York emptied out, it was the result of an implicit understanding that we must all withdraw now to come out on the other side later. But some folks in government and business just happened to be in roles where they entered into different kinds of pacts, hastily crafted partnerships that made innovation of material goods possible for the COVID-19 moment. Leadership during this crisis has been about joining the dots, connecting the people and resources from unusual places. At its simplest, it's about just asking people to sew millions of PPE gowns if they have the means to do it, and paying them a good wage for that service. From the epicenter of the US outbreak, the CEO of the New York City Economic Development Corporation, James Patchett, shares stories of innovation and resilience. After he speaks, you'll hear from Libby Mattern, who hired 300 New Yorkers and produced over 500,000 reusable gowns in 6 factories when New York governor gave the call for people to step up to the challenge. When the story of New York is written, this will be the stuff of what it took to rise up. Take a listen.
It was just a few weeks ago that New York was deemed a new epicenter of this pandemic. But today it's remarkable progress that we're seeing. The curve is flattening and overall hospitalizations are decreasing. Intensive care cases are trending downward. And these are positive signs in what has been a really difficult period for New York. In fact, over the last few days, our hospitalization rate is down to below 2 per 100,000, which is a remarkable recovery from where we were at the peak of this, and a demonstration of the effectiveness of the collective efforts of New Yorkers to get us to a safe place. And as we continue to address this immediate health crisis, we also need to turn our eyes towards recovery. The unemployment numbers we're seeing everywhere are staggering, and it's particularly staggering because it's just a few weeks ago that New York City had essentially full employment. So returning from a crisis like this is going to take time, and it won't be easy. But as challenging as it's been, there's one message that I want to deliver today. New Yorkers are incredibly resilient, and so is this city. This city has inherent strategic advantages that have made it a major economic center for centuries. Time and again, we have seen its strength. The fiscal crisis in the 70s, 9/11, the Great Recession, and Superstorm Sandy are just a few examples of that. And every day I see the work of New Yorkers that convinces me that we're more resilient than ever. They step up and fight for one another and fight for our city. It's just what New Yorkers do. And I've seen this firsthand with my partners at EDC. We've been supporting the city's response to COVID-19 from the very beginning. We've turned our cruise terminals into hospitals. We've worked with local manufacturers to produce critical medical supplies, and we've advocated for more federal resources for our businesses. And while these have certainly been long days, I am incredibly inspired by the innovation, the creativity, and the tenacity that my team and the people all across the city have shown. It was mid-March when we were asked to do the seemingly impossible, to build a new ventilator. In that moment, if you had asked me to explain the term HEPA filter, PEEP valve, or manual resuscitator bag, I would have been at a loss for words. It's amazing how quickly things change. When the mayor first asked me, it seemed crazy that we could ever do this. A ventilator is an incredibly complicated instrument, and the thought that we could figure it out, build it, and scale production all in just a few weeks, and all within New York City, seemed impossible. But we're New Yorkers, so we got to work. We set up a 15-person team from scratch. People who have never done anything like this before. They quickly became experts in FDA certification, supply chains for medical grade materials, and translating medical research into manufacturing specs. In less than a month, we identified and convened a consortium of researchers with local innovators and manufacturers to design, develop, and deliver this life-saving technology. These devices free up ICU ventilators for critically ill patients, which was an absolute top priority at the height of this medical crisis. Our key partners in this ventilator effort included New Lab, an innovative space in Brooklyn that enables tech innovation. And the ventilators were produced at Voice Technologies in Long Island City, a state-of-the-art manufacturer. EDC has supported both New Lab and Voice over the last several years, and the capacity they brought to the table is the only reason we were able to design and produce these new ventilators right here in New York to respond to the crisis. The rapid evolution in technology the investments the city made in the tech sector, and the relationships EDC has developed through diversifying the economy and planning for the future all came together in a pivotal moment. And beyond technology, EDC has made strategic investments in key industries like fashion and garment manufacturing, which today are playing a critical role in the city's response. Our partnership with Libby and the organization she founded, Course of Trade, is a great example. At the start of the pandemic, there was a critical need for PPE, like face shields and reusable gowns for our frontline workers. New York City was not getting the federal support it needed, so we did what New Yorkers do best. We stepped up and got to work. Course of Trade is an incredible organization in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, which trains the next generation of fashion manufacturers for free. When the pandemic struck, Libby did not hesitate to act. In a matter of weeks, she hired 300 New Yorkers to produce over 500,000 reusable gowns in 6 different factories. It's truly an incredible effort that represents the rare win-win situation during these times. Not only are we providing frontline workers with the supplies they need, we are also putting New Yorkers back to work. Libby, we can't thank you enough for the work that you and your team have done. We're incredibly grateful. Now, I share these stories not just because of what it says about our work to date, but also because it points to our collective way forward. Thankfully, the surge of coronavirus cases is waning, so it's time to look ahead to the economic recovery and getting New Yorkers back to work. To respond to the economic devastation we're seeing, we need to reopen our economy deliberately and do so as quickly as we can, but only if it is safe and grounded in science. To confidently begin to reopen the economy, we must rapidly scale up testing so that New Yorkers can stay home and keep the rest of us safe. So that sick New Yorkers can stay home, I should say. Here again, New York City's innovators are stepping out to be part of the solution. Over the past few weeks at EDC, we built a new supply chain with local biotech companies and small manufacturers and are now in production on 50,000 COVID-19 test kits per week. In a matter of weeks, our team consulted with experts across the country, forged relationships with local manufacturers, worked with medical professionals and city agencies to review swab designs, figured out sanitization procedures and vetting processes for medical use, and then quickly found local manufacturers to begin production. Again, the confluence of innovation and manufacturing partners was essential. As with our efforts to produce ventilators, the ongoing production of new test kits would not be possible in New York without having innovative companies and the capacity to make things. Print Parts in Manhattan is 3D printing swabs, and the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx is following a CDC protocol to produce transport medium. That's the liquid that preserves the collected sample after it's collected on its way to the lab. And in Brooklyn, we've converted a co-working space co-lab into a test kit production facility. It's incredible to me that we developed these extremely precise and technologically advanced materials in New York City so quickly. And I'm proud to say these test kits are already in use. It was at the end of last week that we delivered nearly 5,000 kits to health and hospitals, which are in use in health clinics across the city. When the first completed kits made their way off the production line, the factory erupted into cheers. It's incredibly inspiring to see how New Yorkers are stepping up to support their fellow New Yorkers. Now, I share these anecdotes not only because I'm proud of the work that's happening across the city, but because they highlight my core belief that innovation, science, and New Yorkers working together will get us through this. We know that government cannot do it alone. New York's business leaders and innovators are already playing a huge role in helping us respond to this crisis, and that will only grow over time. We want to work with them. We want to understand their challenges and ideas, and we want businesses across sectors to continue to grow in New York. And finally, I also ask for your help. Share these incredible stories of innovation and resilience. The world needs to know that while we are facing a tremendous challenge, this city will come through stronger than before. And anyone who doubts that, just remember, only in New York City can you develop a ventilator in less than a month or nasopharyngeal swabs within weeks. New Yorkers make the impossible possible, and we will do it again and again.
It's really amazing to watch all the factories involved mobilize so quickly and jump into action to reframe their production lines. And I'm so happy to tell everyone here that since we started the production, we've delivered 125,000 gowns to date, another 25,000 gowns set for delivery on Saturday, and we're well on our way to fulfilling our 500,000 gown order. As a result of COVID-19, factories in New York City were faced with a very uncertain future. Orders were canceled, workers were furloughed, and the machines were dormant. Businesses, both small and large, have been evaluating their plans and reassessing what it takes to stay afloat during these unprecedented times. New York City manufacturers are uniquely poised to shift focus. We are filling the gaps left by canceled or delayed orders and redirecting operations to alleviate shortages of the necessary personal protective equipment during this current crisis. New York City garment manufacturing is absolutely critical for the economic health of the city and the country as a whole. We have an incredible and immensely knowledgeable workforce right here in our 5 boroughs. Ensuring the longevity of this pipeline of sewers is mission critical as we weather this economic storm. 1 out of every 50 New Yorkers is employed by the fashion industry in some capacity, whether it be manufacturing or retail. That's 6% of the city's workforce. New York City's fashion industry, retail, and manufacturing combined pays nearly $11 billion in wages and generates almost $2 billion in yearly tax revenue. And this industry puts food on the table for tens of thousands of New Yorkers. The erosion of the manufacturing base risks jeopardizing a vital economic ecosystem. Through ongoing workforce development, we can continue to ensure that there's a broad and deep pool of talented makers who can remain the beating heart of fashion in New York. I'm incredibly grateful for the partnership with the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Their commitment to workforce development for New York City garment manufacturing shows vision not only in providing essential protective gear to our frontline workers and first responders, but seizing this opportunity to help fortify a pillar of New York's economy. This is such an important time for all businesses and the government to band together to help our neighbors on the front lines. And this is what makes New York City manufacturing and the people behind the sewing machines so incredible. We can seamlessly move to address supply chain issues and bring goods to market rapidly. I'm a proud New Yorker, and I'm proud to support our neighbors on the healthcare front lines with valuable PPE. And I'm proud to have the opportunity to work with the New York City Economic Development Corporation and give New Yorkers jobs in these challenging times for individuals and businesses alike. And most importantly, I am so proud to train the next generation of garment manufacturers in New York City. I'm a true believer in giving back to the community and the city that means so much to me. There's so much to be gained when we all work together, and it truly takes a village, or in this case, a city, New York City, a resilient city,